Hi, welcome back. This is Ed in San Diego, and this is Global Business News TV. And the segment is all about business thinking at the C-suite level. Our very special guest today is an impressive guy, and here is Ron Cooper, and he's in the Cooper culture today. Welcome.
Ed, thank you. It's always good to be with you, your viewers, your listeners. And we're all about culture, and culture is a matter of whatever the company looks like, the home, and so forth. Just very briefly, I'm a believer, and those within our sphere of influence believe that there's a continuum between home and work. When things are going well at home, there's a pretty good chance you'll arrive at least in a pretty good situation at work. If things are going well at work, there's a pretty good chance you'll arrive home maybe tired, but at least not in a grumpy mood. And so it's in that context where I say there is a continuum between home and work. And it's a matter of us choosing, my opinion, to work with other people. And what I want to talk about today is, Ed, is those topics that some of us use the term keep the main thing. But what really is important in of all the topics that are available to us, which of those topics are divisive, and which, even though we don't endorse a particular topic or viewpoint, can we still live with each other peacefully, or is it going to be something divisive? But these are some of the topics I want to discuss, Ed. And quite honestly, I believe it's a matter of our choice. And through this, what I want to talk about today, just very briefly, hopefully I stimulate your thinking, not just you, Ed, but your viewers, listeners. And maybe through stimulating thinking, we'll have a call to action that if there's some divisiveness in the home, the workplace, let's call maybe a brief timeout and see if we can work through whatever it is that may be causing any amount of divisiveness.
So I just want to interject that the show is not political. I happen to love the colors of the flag and what it means and the purest sense of the word. And Ron Cooper does, of course, too, and we'll get into that momentarily. But I just want to also say that uh, at this age, at this point in my life, uh, more than ever, I'm feeling the impact of belief in uh, home, faith, the nation, and family. Got to be connected. If there's something missing, it needs attention because it will in fact impact and infect everything else. You think that too, I'm guessing.
I'm I'm right there, Ed. That yes, I mean, what is important enough that can be divisive between us, and but what are some of those? And I'm almost always talking about what are the very fundamental principles that are our core beliefs, and what I will address today are some of those core values. And we can't compromise, and I would never advocate compromising anyone's core values, but I would say that, beyond the core values, a lot of the topics that tend to be divisive among some people are peripheral issues. And I'm with you, Ed. I'm not here to espouse any particular political ideology. You may guess where I am, but I hope to be very accepting of many viewpoints, and there are only a few that would cause me to be divisive. I'll just say up front, Ed, if there's someone who is, of the mindset that if we don't believe the same way that I want to exterminate you, then well, that's a point of divisiveness, and I will do everything I need to do to protect my family against anyone who might tend to want to exterminate me. And I mean, that's a radical viewpoint, and I think most of your listeners, your viewers know right away that we're in the right neighborhood, wrong neighborhood, with the people with whom we want to be associated. So the likelihood that we're going to be close friends with someone who might want to firebomb my house that's a radical extraneous view. So I think we know just by the way people dress, the way they talk, that yep, you're definitely not my kind. And but then beyond that, if we're as long as we don't have those radical views, hey, we can at least socialize with each other to some degree. So that's largely where I'm coming from, Ed.
And that's the American dream.
It is. And so, well, let me. I've got some slides, Ed, and the purpose of these slides is more so to just stimulate people's thinking. And I'll graphically show what it is I'm talking about. Ed, if I get to talking a little bit fast and you want to interject, certainly do that. It's good to be interactive, but as I mentioned a little bit earlier, those core values versus peripheral topics. Peripheral meaning that's a secondary topic that we may disagree on whatever it is, but it's just not important enough to divide over. And some people have a difficult time separating core values from peripheral topics. That is my observation. But just very briefly, Ed, I'm talking about as I mentioned earlier, keeping the main thing the main thing. That's a very common term. And what I am talking about in today's context is the home and workplace harmony. We alluded to that a little bit earlier. And what I am talking about is I think, needs to be an acceptance of people. There needs to be an acceptance of other people's perspectives. Ed, you and I have lived a different life, and certainly you've lived a life that I have not lived. You have a perspective from that. I too. And so I'm very interested and this, now I'm talking about a mindset. I'm very interested in your perspective on life and how you think, why you think the way you do. And when we can accept each other from the differing perspectives, varying perspectives. I'm just interested in learning from you, Ed. And a trait that is difficult for some of us to implement is listen. Just when we are communicating with people, spend most of our time listening to the other person without trying to force my view on you. And so that's a somewhat simple concept, but a listing of things that I have spoken of in the past, and I'm going to continue to come forward with this, is I'd certainly encourage innovative thinking. And as we encourage innovative thinking, not everything we think of is going to be implementable, and not everything is going to work. But hey, let's keep thinking innovatively. And I do want to address leaders of the C-suite. And you don't necessarily have to be in the C-suite when you're a leader at home, parent, um, godparent, grandparent, any form of that. You are a leader. But I would encourage you to encourage innovative thinking and failing. Yep. And when we think innovatively, we're going to fail sometimes, but we learn through that. And I've mentioned before, Ed, and I'm going to continuously mention, a part of the mindset is we never, I mean, it's maybe a few things in life are nevers, but I am a very strong advocate. We never denigrate others. And but rather we do want to develop others. So that's just kind of a core thought, core belief that forms my mindset and outlook. And then here's where a lot of things come to mind that, yes, you have maybe a constitutional right to demonstrate. You have the constitutional right to free speech and the so forth. And I think, and I'm certainly not going to purport myself to be a constitutional scholar. I'm not doing that at all. But you do have the constitutional right to, let's say, peacefully protest. Now, that may or may not be something I would do in whatever it is you're peacefully protesting to advocate. I may or may not advocate the same thing. But here's where I'm coming from, Ed, and this is a very top level. I can't, and it's not my intent ever as a corporate leader, and as I speak to various groups, it's never my point to abridge your constitutional rights. However, if what you are stating, if what you are representing is contrary to my company values, then I would want to talk with you. And you certainly, again, I'm going to always say you have the constitutional right to do what you want to do. But if what you're doing violates our company values, then people who associate the person who is demonstrating, if you're particularly if you're wearing a shirt that represents my company, people know with certainty through your shirt, coat, whatever, my company, or they just know that you're one of my employees. That if what you're doing is denigrating other people, and to that extent that you're violating their fundamental principles, then I will talk with you. And my company may not be the best place for you, but I will have a discussion with you, and we're going to discuss this peacefully. But beyond that, Ed, I know there's some people who espouse we will never discuss politics and religion. We'll never discuss social topics and so forth. I am the kind of person I do discuss politics and religion, social topics. In I'm not the kind of person who wants to divide over it, but I'm very interested, Ed, in your thoughts. I'm very interested in the perspective of those within my circle of influence, within my employment. But I do believe that wherever we may disagree, we can do that agreeably if we're willing to talk about it. And I will tell you, Ed, that is a culture I always try to create in my home, my company, that let's discuss whatever it is that is on our mind. And I'm a believer, and one of those fundamental principles, we can overcome any differences we have if we're able to talk about it. And so I am not going to be one that will denigrate you. And as I mentioned earlier, I want to listen to what your viewpoint is. But some of these taboo topics that are taboo for some people, for me, are not taboo. I will say let's do talk about it, and I'm not talking about it's an everyday topic. I'm one of those kind of people. I won't shy away from it when it's appropriate to discuss different things because I'm interested in your worldview.
It's really interesting to learn about this to uh, and I want to say that I'm very, very comfortable with you.
No, thank you, Ed. And I'm very comfortable with you. And anyone who, even if you, and I will tell you, Marty and I, have friends who are very disparate in ideology, in different topics. But I do take the time to discuss these topics with them because I want to know how they think, why they think the way they do, and I'm not in a position to say they're wrong. It's just that, okay, I'm the kind of person I want to discuss facts, not emotion. And as we're able to discuss facts, you and I might process facts differently or to a different conclusion. But if we at least, if we're each processing the same facts, then we're coming from the same viewpoint. And so if you process them a little differently than I do, again, Ed, I'm very interested in why you process a set of facts one way and I process them another way, after which we'll go to lunch, we'll have supper, we're still going to socialize. That's always, always, always my viewpoint. And so I would say, Ed, some of the takeaways from what I'm discussing, some of these things these topics might seem artificial or somewhat elementary. Some people may think, well, that's easy for you to say, but gosh, I'm going to say, Ed, that my perspective is if our mindset is, I want to find what is positive with you, I'm not looking for the negative, then I do believe that we can find ways to get along with each other. So, what are the core values? I mean, some of my core values are I value people. And I hope you can honor that, that you too value people. And I'm going to give an extreme example. We talked about it very briefly. But if you are the kind of person who might choose to damage my house, firebomb, I'll use the term very loosely somewhat, firebomb my house just because of my friends, the way I voted, some of my beliefs, that would be a reason that I would be on the want to be on the lookout for you. That if you take it to the extreme, then of course there are consequences for that. But um, core values. A core value is I'm going to protect my family and those within my sphere of influence, and I'll do whatever it takes to protect them against any harm. But can others correctly speak on your behalf? What I'm talking about there, Ed, if someone is, let's just say I am speaking with someone and someone says, well, I know Ed to be, in whatever the conversation is, I would hope, Ed, I know you well enough to know that I would say something to the effect, that's not the Ed Cohen I know. I know his values, and we discuss things that what you just said and your thoughts about him do not align with the Ed Cohen that I know. It is my hope, Ed, that we, as we are talking with other people, would have the courage to stick up for any wrong views, wrong statements that others might make. Some people would just say, nope, I'm just not going to bother. I'm not going to confront. I don't want to get into any sort of a disagreement because I don't well, I just don't like any sort of confrontation. Therefore, I'll stay away from it. Your character, your reputation matters to me, Ed, and the character and reputation of other people within my sphere of influence matter to me. And it's all in the context of I just do not want to have other people denigrate others. And so my personality is such that I'm not terribly uncomfortable confronting other people. I don't want to do that argumentatively or combatively, but I do want to stick up for other people to try to do the best I can to ensure your character remains intact and that those who have a differing opinion of you, I would at least offer my opinion. And their opinion may not change because of what I said, but at least I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, Ed, that I know what your character is and what I'm hearing from this other person does not align with it. But again, the main thing, can we articulate what our main thing is, what our values are? Can we articulate those kind of things? And then do we have the courage to uh, defend those values by words, whatever it means? And by defend, I'm not talking about combatively, fist fight. That's not my point. I would hope that we don't get to that point, but I would hope that verbally we would articulate our values and that I value Ed enough. I value others with whom I speak enough that I want those people to know exactly who you are from my perspective. And
Let me ask you a question, if I may.
certainly,
Um, did you grow up with this strength of, I'm not talking about when you're like 10 years old or even 20 or even 30, but did were there makings of this strength that you're exhibiting here with these expressions and words? And did you always have that, or is this something that after you've been a military leader for a number of years, uh, and building teams for not only learning but survival in combat situations. And now in business life for many years, there's a straight line, isn't there?
Yes, and Ed, that's a very fair question. And I will say to you, it is my military experience that has had a great positive, I believe, positive influence on me. The discipline. I will say very briefly, and I can go into much longer story that in the context of words matter, the first 20 years of my life were not what my life is now. I was influenced by different things, and I did not have any confidence at all as a younger person, even for the first 20 years, Ed. When I was 15, 20 years old or so, I still had a very low self confidence. It was when I was in the military that I developed what I hope others would say is a very healthy self confidence. But it was before I had what I hope others might say is a healthy self confidence. I wouldn't confront anybody because I didn't have the confidence, didn't have the courage. I didn't know why. And so, Ed, right now I'm articulating things that came on later in my life I did not have early in my life. And so I guess to some degree, Ed, I could say somewhat facetiously, well, I want to make up for the first 20 years of my life that I was not doing what I'm doing then. I was not doing then what I'm doing now. So yes, it is a change, but I will say the military has had that very positive effect on me. The discipline. We need to work together as a team, and that, Ed, for all of my heart, teamwork is what I represent. I do work with businesses to help create that consummate teamwork, and when we are working together, we do work through whatever differences we have because we know the main thing is whatever the company represents and the strategic goals. Everything else beyond that, most everything else, are peripheral issues. And we can differ on peripheral issues, but let's move forward toward the larger goals. That's a lot of what I represent.
It's really interesting. As I've mentioned to you in the past, my military experiences during Vietnam, Army Reserve Medical Corps, um, that experience over the years of participation, over the years of practice, uh, that changed my life. That I grew up during that time uh, much more definitively um, than prior. And prior to that, I was a kid in college,
Right.
So I was editor of the college paper. I was the disc jockey on the college radio station. I was on the dean's list, aced most of the classes that I were in, not all for sure, but and social psychology was 100% level. Um, I just love that stuff. And uh, I think I'm practicing that today, doing the TV talk shows. And uh, and I learned that by being in the medical corps and having instructors from Harvard Medical School, frankly, and the people around them that also taught me what to do to support the surgeons. And then when I was in hospital duty, uh, or even on summer camp sometime, out taking care of the soldiers who were not in the medical corps, but doing bivouacking and military marching and games, taking care of people, helping people who are taking care or worried about the people who are in medical care year after year. And some of the operations I witnessed and some of uh, failed, death in the operating room, sometimes in little kids and sometimes adults. It
Ed,
just
I
changed my
appreciate.
life, you know?
Yeah, and Ed, I will tell anybody, I think we in the military are different, and I take that to mean a very positive way. I think there is a disciplined mindset in the military that some people don't have, but they know they want. And so I think it's a matter of us discerning, not certainly not judging, not labeling, but if you don't have the discipline in your family, your workplace, that without me judging or labeling anything like that, I can help you discern that. But Ed, I do believe as you were serving in the military, I have for 22 years, there is a discipline in the military that we have, and that's what we can practice. And as I make this statement, as I talk with, work with different people, businesses, it's not my purpose to create a militaristic attitude kind of thing, but I do believe that one of the core values that we can build on in a very positive way is discipline. And so, as we are disciplined, we can focus. And as we focus on what our core values are, we can differentiate those things that are peripheral values, peripheral topics, and we can move toward those main things. That's a lot of what I'm about, Ed, and I sense you're the same way.
Wow, that's great. So now how do you teach that in a business consulting framework?
And I can do that, Ed, in the context of workshops. I can do it as a seminar, webinar. My preference is to be in person, but it sometimes may take a half day to really inculcate or let's say execute the principles about which I'm talking. I like to be interactive with people. And so as we are interactive, I want to help stimulate, inspire, call to action. And the call to action is okay, let's assess where you are with your organization. And if you're not where you'd like to be, then let's see if we can determine what the root problem is. What are some of the core topics that need to be addressed? And so that takes a little bit of time to do that. And there's some people, some senior leaders who would say, "Yeah, we're doing okay." Well, would you like to improve from okay to great? And great may be defined by yes, our retention rate is 90+%. And yes, our profits follow because we have what we know as a psychologically safe space. And Ed, we've talked about that several times. The psychologically safe space, for the listeners who may be wondering, is the opportunity to discuss any matter openly that they know they can do that with me, with you, Ed, and our job, their job is not jeopardized by doing so. And so, again, I want to stimulate people's thinking to where they are thinking innovatively and as people are thinking innovatively, I certainly want for them to think about the greater good of the company, their family, and so forth. Ed, but that's just one of the ways that I can help companies work with them in it. Quite honestly, if the company is off track a little bit with their culture, it is probably going to take a few times, a few hours to get things right. And I'm a believer that rarely is training a one-time event. It's continuous. And as we talk about these topics continuously, it becomes an inculcated value within the company. This is who we are. It's not an esoteric topic. It's exactly who we are, and we know what we're about. But I will say, Ed, in that context, as your listeners, if they feel that, and I would certainly welcome the opportunity to work with companies in a seminar, webinar. It could be an all day, half day event, whatever we believe best serves a company. I am the person who wants to partner with different companies. I'm not, I hesitate to use the word consultant because that tends sometimes to connote that we're in and out and we're not coming back. But I do want to partner with companies. And those of your listeners, the viewers, can learn more about us at thecooperculture.com. And you can contact me or my wife at the emails represented there, Ron at the Cooper Culture or Marty. And I'm a public speaker. I welcome the opportunity to speak publicly to any groups, anywhere. We do, as we've been talking the last few minutes, conduct workshops and seminars. I can do that virtually or in person. Ed, whatever works best for your listeners, your companies, those who are viewing, and they know that, well, we certainly can get better, but I don't know exactly what it is that we is the core problem to get us better. I can work with that company, and I have a proprietary method where I can help that company determine exactly where the problem exists, and I will determine, help them with the problem resolution to work through whatever challenge they have to get to where they want to be.
It sounds to me that when your system works, the client company can have a track to become, if not already doing this, they're on a track to become a best place to work
Oh,
because of
you're
the
right there, Ed.
psychological safety factor that the employees come to learn, not to work.
Ed, you and I know very well people stay with or leave companies because of people. And when the culture is right, and we're going back to the opening statement that when things are going right at home, when things are right at work, that's a continuum. And people know that, well, even if company X down the street can pay me a little bit more, but the culture is not what I want it to be, a person, and I'm not advocating paying someone less, but obviously the numbers have to work out. You have to be in a financial balance. People will stay with me even if I can't pay them what a company down the street can pay, because the culture is very accepting and it's very right. People say, and I'll tell you what, I just need to feel fulfilled when I'm at home, at work, and the leaders here actually care. And so that's a big, big term with me, Ed. When I project, when I can help other leaders to project compassionately, even though I speak very resolutely, and sometimes people have said I have a command voice, I want to be very compassionate with other people. That's a much larger topic, Ed, but that's a lot of what we're about.
So the ROI, return on investment of your clients, the the client ROI of utilizing your service, your culture, the Cooper culture, to augment what they're already doing. That's sounds like a goal.
Yes, and I will say, Ed, that when your culture is very attractive, you will attract and retain quality people. I know statistically it's going to cost a minimum $65,000 to replace somebody on your staff. Acquisition cost and loss of productivity and so forth. So, as you are able to increase your retention, you are naturally saving money. And so, when the people and processes are in place, the profits logically follow. And I'm not trying to play on words, but those are three P's that I know factually will follow.
Three P's are what?
The three P's are when the people in the processes are right. That is, I have a good culture, the profits will follow. So the P in people, the P in processes, and the P in profits, call that a P3. People, when the people and processes are in place, the profits will largely follow. In when the our when our priorities and thought processes are in that order, and certainly we have to have a positive cash flow. I'm not saying pay lesser attention to. I'm just telling you, when the people and process are in place, the profits will largely follow.
Thank you very much for this. It's making a great TV show. And I
Thank
wish
you,
you
Ed.
well, and I'm on your team. Uh,
That's all good. That's as we uh, as we have the opportunity to work with other companies, and yes, everything I can promise you will turn out to have a very positive benefit.
Thank you all for being on Global Business News TV today, and Ron Cooper and the Cooper Culture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.